Hello and welcome to the Articulate Outburst podcast. As I said in a previous stream, we're going to be going through the album, the UNSAFE SPACES. I'm going to start each song individually. I'll pause it as the song goes on, just to let you know what I'm using for the music. It's a Marshall Kilburn 2. Bit more expensive than what I'd like to have spent my money on, but we clubbed together, me and the missus, because we do spend a lot of time in the kitchen listening to things on YouTube and many a TV series, so a bit ostentatious, but it'll see me out. So, as I said on a previous stream, UNSAFE SPACES is our debut album, should be coming out in January. The order of the songs we're putting together at some point in the next few weeks. And I thought I'd just get straight into it really. I think I've said enough about this song on other streams. So what I propose to do is go through it, pause it and discuss how it came about as we go through it, rather than listening to it all and then me talking over it. So it's going to be a combination of both. If you want to listen to the whole song, it's available on SoundCloud. I'll put a link in the description. But I'll make no more further ado and we'll get straight into it. So there in a nutshell, you've got lead guitar, the director, the drums from the porter and the educator on his guitar. The educator wanted a big guitar sound coming into this. It was overruled. We preferred a little bit of a kind of a welcome, come in the waters, lovely guitar sound to start it off. And I think we've achieved that quite well there. The beat of the drums, the lead guitar, and the bass just kicks in, and it's just, you can see exactly where this is going. Obviously you can hear the guitars going up a chord into the second line there, but let's talk about that first line. The first line is very male-centric. This is pretty much what the album is stating from the off. It's not for the rights of anybody else, it's for the rights of man and the good of the individual. I think I said it in a previous stream. We're all being categorised into our inherent groups. That's not who we are. We're individuals. We are men. You know, men went to the moon in a tin can. Let's not pretend that, you know, men suddenly don't have any relevance in today's society, which I think is pretty much a narrative, I think, certainly in a lot of educational establishments and certainly in, I'd say, arts and entertainment. So this is to kind of rebalance that straight off the bat, no messing about. And obviously that's just about to go into the first chorus. And again, there we go, religion's off the table for the first time in 400 years. We come from a society back in the 60s, 70s and 80s that's constantly poked fun at religion. It's poked fun at religion because of its hypocrisy, because of its archaic beliefs, because of its teachings. It's always been done with respect. It's always been done with respect and a tongue-in-cheek and an appreciation of said institution. Now, unfortunately, it's off the table. Everybody's become very precious about it, even though the figures for atheism are going through the roof. People do not have a religious belief system. Those that do protect it like a junkyard dog to a certain extent. I think even if you are tongue-in-cheek, poking fun, raising an eyebrow, it's now become an attack on their beliefs their institution and them as people. I think it's got to stop. I think if you can't take fun out of something, then there's very much little point, isn't there? Because it's only when you see things about yourself that you get, certainly my mates and me in the pub rip each other to shreds, and it's only when during the ripping to shreds you see who you are. Religion should be no different. It should not be granted a special pass. So that's why that's in there. The second part of that as well is the police are cowardly bastards, no longer hold my fears. And I thought it was a bit of a controversial statement, but not when you kind of take a step back from it. Would the police rush towards a terrorist in a terrorist attack? Yes, they would. I think most of us would, to be quite honest. If we could prevent something like that, I think most of us would do that. The cowardly bastard thing comes from a kind of slightly different perspective. The Islamic Muslim grooming gang scandal said pretty much how powerless the police have become in that sphere, and it's that kind of cowardice that this song is kind of aiming at. The kind of cowardice that sometimes you do have to get up close, personal, and have a frank and fair chat. Just because you've got close to that community shouldn't prevent you from then raising issues with that community. The press are just as bad on this, but ultimately that's where that is. And it really no longer hold my fears is when I came out of a pub in the 1980s, there were a police car at the Irwin, there were a police car at the Travellers, and there were a police car pretty much down at the bottom of the hill looking for drink drivers. I don't think that happens anymore. I don't think there is any effective policing of the day-to-day criminality. It looks like they're all sat looking at hate speech on Twitter, things that you can, from a term of phrase, end up in a police cell. Or a police interview to check your thinking. I mean, Harry Miller's trying to flag this up. It didn't seem to be stopping anything, but it is what it is. That's why that's in there. Now let's continue with the song into the chorus. Is there anybody out there who feels the same as me? Is there anybody out there? We'll have to wait and see. Is there anybody out there? And is there anybody out there? It's pretty much, I've kind of stated my case. The chorus is, does anybody else out there agree with me? It's not saying that they should or shouldn't, it's just, is there anybody out there? And, you know, if people come back to me, people challenge me, people agree with me, then so be it. But they'll have to wait and see will be answered. But if nobody comes back to me, then I guess I'll still wait to see. What I do quite like on there is the backing vocals from the band, so they're kind of echoey. Is there anybody out there? I remember when we sang it quite a while ago now this was recorded, but we were all in the recording studio, and I think the Salesman, which is me, stood out of that. I didn't put any of the backing vocals on, it was the rest of the band. So yeah, I think they did a great job on that. Into the second chorus. Sorry, second verse. And I think that's quite a good point, that in the quest for truth, just for the rights and wrongs of it, I think we live in a world now where the truth is not exactly always sought. It seems to be the narrative. I think the truth can easily be identified, but then all of a sudden you find people putting their spin on it or picking their truth from something, which is not exactly what happened, and things get taken out of context and repackaged in a way when I just think if you just report what's gone on and forget what the narrative is, surely the audience is the one for the narrative, not for the, you know, the people in power of the mainstream media to dictate what that narrative is. I mean, the fact that most of the narrative of the Ukrainian war is just absolute gumph. We know really what's happening and they're just refusing to report on it accurately. What can you do? But that's what that is. For the rights and wrongs, it's not just the way somebody would want it, it's the way that it should be. Then we'll decide what the rights and wrongs of it are. The consumer, the person listening to it. The person that's listening to it doesn't need to know how to interpret the news. They just want the news. And the second line on there is controlling speech is just a veil, owning language to derail. We constantly see the way in which things are referred to changing all the time to catch people out. Words change their meanings, trans woman, trans man. I still don't know which way around it is, and you get pulled up on this in normal discourse. The fact that you're trying to make a point about that gets muddled. You can't get to where you're going because you made a mistake along the way by incorrect terminology, and people turn on you for this. People turn on you for a bloody spelling mistake, for God's sake, when I haven't got my glasses on. And it's like, well, you know what the word actually says. My point is valid, but no. So that's what owning speech and controlling it means. If you control how words are interpreted, you can pretty much win any argument without having to have it. And that's what that's in there for. And then we're going back into the chorus again, and that's quite simple. Freedom of speech is washed away. I mean, the First Amendment in America entitles free speech in the public square. I don't know how the tech firms are getting away with controlling it. I really don't. Well, I don't know why they want to, but I don't know how they're getting away with it. If they are a public platform, then you should be able to say anything. I think it was Justice Wendell Holmes that discussed when speech would be limited, when free speech would be limited, and I think it's the old shouting fire in a crowded theatre routine as an example where free speech could be curtailed. Obviously, I don't know what's going on. So now, and the thing is about tech and big tech is there are local isms in this country that the algorithms don't accept. I once got banned for a word for a certain oriental type of chip, which we refer to as one of the words that is which is an unword, if we were to use a George Orwell term. And I got a 30-day ban when I used it in a complimentary fashion, because it's just a northern terminology that the international bots don't pick up on. So there is a kind of an inability to speak as freely as you would. You have to temper your speech, and in doing so, for big tech, obviously, Facebook, we are. And the tech firms are dancing and leading the way here. Now, Musk has got Twitter. We know exactly how corrupt that was. And we know that the minute you start to curtail speech, those nefarious powers come forth in order to do it. Now, I'd have thought George Orwell's book was a flight of fancy from a previous age. It's never been more relevant as it is today. Freedom of speech is washed away. The tech firms dance and lead the way. Let's hope Musk can bring some sense to Twitter. But in the meantime, back into the second chorus. I just love how that chorus romps along with the question, the answer, the question, the answer. I just think it's absolutely class. The backing vocals from the band are excellent. I just think the timings, the guitars, just everything on there is just exactly where it needs to be. Yeah, what we did there is we took the first lines from the first verse and the second lines from the second verse to make the third verse. Again, I think it's worth repeating sometimes. You reaffirm something in a song. I think we tried a few things there that didn't quite work, and it just seemed quite a bit better to just go back and kind of reaffirm what the opening of the song was in a kind of closure moment, really, before obviously going into the final verse, final chorus. quite really like that ending. There's obviously a few more out there singing in rounds on the back of that, so the production team did a great job there. Loom Studios, if you're ever going, very reasonably priced, very insightful case. In case you're wondering, he knows what kind of music we play and he knows exactly how to put it together. Great with the suggestions and not over controlling, so that's another plug there. But yeah, so I think anybody out there, extended version of the kind of chorus there with the backing vocals of all the guys on there, I think it just sounds great to tail off into a finish. I think you can sometimes just hear a little bit of a cheer on the end of that. I just heard it then. I don't know whether it's because it's on the speaker or not, but I think we kind of cheered when we got that in. I think it's still a muffled cheer. I'll have to go back and look at it. But that's it. That's the first song on the album, the overreaching kind of anthem that the rest of the songs hang from. So thanks again. Again, 17 minutes. It's amazing how time gets away from you on here. But thanks again. And if you could, bit of housekeeping, if you could like and share the video as much as possible, ring the bell for notifications, then ultimately, thanks very much, and thanks again for listening. Much appreciated.